we have built a so we have built a base model for the univariate case that we're trying to price this autocallable options, and we are using approach this Monte Carlo approach to sample those paths of the price evolution and try to get the expected value of the price of the product. So this is this is our base model. Like this is what we have started with. Can you see my screen?
Yes, very nice.
Yeah, so this is what we have started with. So, and this is like fetching prices for a single stock. So currently the underlying is Apple stock, and we are observing it for 6 observation dates, and the samples are 1,000 samples, and as you can see, we are getting expected values for each observation date, expected value of returns. Currently, these returns are like a single value right now, but Edgar is working right now to get to know how these payoffs are written, and this is converging to this. And this is like some development on the work of last 2 weeks, and Akshat has done some work on this model, so maybe he will explain it better. And Edgar, you want to join
Edgar,
in?
you want to jump in?
Yeah. Um, so I think there's an interesting conversation here in the pricing of this specific autocallable note. I think the scenario is that it's such a popular product and it is such a widely traded, uh, not even in the United States, worldwide, because of its availability of having interesting returns despite the interest rates worldwide. Now, this happens because of a specific feature that's called either the principal protection or the coupon year. And I think for the purposes of our specific observation right now, we are not focusing on that because what really is important here is being able to calculate the probabilities that a specific product is being called or not. Um, and this kind of like gives us at least a linear avenue to where we can then implement different features later once we have a robust Monte Carlo simulation that computes these probabilities and determines the expected value of a specific autocallable node given the exotic options that are included in order to be able to provide these benefits. And so what we've been working on lately, I feel like is kind of like a continuation on of that. And we are at the moment trying to get a feeling of how the market usually behaves with concrete specific examples, because it's been a bit difficult just to be able to hear from different sources. Oh, this is where the market goes. Usually, the payoffs from these digital options are constant when there's actually conflicting evidence that say that actually varying coupons are what's most popular. So being able to get that specific perspective of what might be most useful and where to go uh, from that to be able to price a specific structure has been a bit challenging from my side, at least of being able to obtain that information. But from there, everything seems a bit clear. I don't know, Akshat, you kind of jumped in a bit in the middle of it, but if you want to speak to volatility or how a model is behaving, maybe that could be also an interesting point to go on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in terms of our evolution so far on this project, we began with a study of autocallable notes. And I think Arvinder initially wrote a model for that used a kind of more naive Monte Carlo approach, which is generally simpler. Now we have a Monte Carlo that implements something called one-step survival, which is something we've collected from a series of papers. And this is also what we discussed with Mahavir last time. And now we currently have a working model for this kind of survival in conjunction with a model for volatility as well. So I'll give a few demos of some of our code just to kind of show where we are code-wise. So here you can see an example of our model that disregards volatility. So this uses a simple understanding of volatility. And here we can see that we have a clear understanding of the paths that we're going to see. We have a clear understanding of the survival on each segment. So this is the probability that it is or is not called. And we have a clear understanding of the survival of the product itself overall. So this is over all the paths, right? So, and we also have a clear understanding of pricing. We're also getting a final price out of our model. So our model returns price. It gives us an understanding of the chance of survival on each segment, our overall chance of survival, and an understanding of our paths themselves. And note, this is the model that doesn't take advantage of volatility. So here, now, finally, we'll also get the evolution of the survival rate overall. So this is the chance of the product even making it to maturity at all, which is also something that's extremely important. Critically, our model, both the volatility model and the non-volatility model, operate in both P and Q measures. So we can forecast autocallable returns. We can also price them under a risk neutral measure. We can do both things. This is an expansion on the papers that we've read since they adhere strictly to the Q measure. Now, this is and we also get a returns distribution, which gives us a clear understanding of returns. Now, this is the model without volatility. Now we also have a model with volatility that gives us similar information, but it's extremely powerful in terms of how it responds to certain elements of the market. So the survival probability graph can be a little bit messy, but here we can now see that we are not just looking at our probability of survival on each segment. Now we also have an understanding of the volatility of the underlying asset, which is modeled using a CIR process, which is standard for something like Heston stochastic volatility modeling. We have an understanding of our sample paths, which now depend on this volatility. And we also have an understanding of the way volatility and price are correlated to one another. This is also part of our model, which makes it extremely powerful. Of course, from this model, we also get an understanding of pricing. Here I was using it on the S&P, for example. And we can also get an understanding of the evolution survival rate over all paths. So here we can see an example where, given high drift and high volatility, the survival rate is relatively low, right? If you're looking at a long period of time, and if you have a low survival rate, and here our barrier was fairly low, 17%, we can see how the survival rate very quickly decomposes, right? And now we can see an example of the returns distribution. So this includes both returns that go all the way to maturity and returns that are called early. So this is an extremely comprehensive way of viewing valuation. I have a good understanding of the forecast of what I will be getting back from my autocallable. I have a good understanding of risk neutral pricing. I have a good understanding of whether or not this autocallable will survive all the way to maturity. I have a good understanding of the probabilities. I have a good understanding of what my path is going to look like for the underlier. So this kind of encompasses everything that we feel a quantitative analyst would want to know about an autocallable note. And this is both in reaction to market volatility and with a more simple understanding of market volatility. So this is where we've gotten to. We've gotten to two models that both price autocallable notes, and one of them includes a volatility model as well. I would go into more detail about how exactly we got both of these to work, but I'll wait for Mahavir to be here. For that, I'll keep this discussion relatively high level for now.
I think Professor Soro mentioned that he will not be able to join.
Professor Zoro, I believe, is in the call.
Oh no, that
Sorry,
Mahavir was not
sorry,
going to be able to
Oh,
join.
yeah, Mahavir was not
No,
able to join. Yes.
no, he can't. He
Yeah.
can't join us today. But thanks for the update.
Mhm.
This is you could stop sharing your screen. Thank you.
All right. Yes.
Yeah, and Professor, I think what's interesting here is kind of like where we can go with this. Um, Actually, we've been considering different avenues as we have kind of like developed this as well. But we thought that maybe this was the best dedication of the time, looking into further implementing this local stochastic volatility approach with this hybrid Heston model, which we were planning on testing through a financial crisis. Actually, well, right before that and through that, to be able to see how well our models would uh, consider this volatility, right, in that stochastic implementation, which I think is interesting.
Yes, indeed. Okay. And
So as kind of a recap, yeah.
what you're gonna put something together? You're gonna put something out for this?
Yes, we're going to have a presentation and we're going to have a paper.
Okay. And then after the paper, I want you to do a podcast on it as well, as we have in the
Okay,
past.
of course. Of course.
Referring to the referring to the paper. Okay, great. Let me stop.
Of course. Of course. Thank you.